Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about how to find the slope from a table. So I just want to go over that when you are given a table, these are points that are actually on a graph. You just don't have the graph as a visual. So you could take the points from your table and plot them on a graph and then find the slope that way, but you're not always going to have a graph to be able to do that. So I just want to show you that if I plot these points from this table, it will make a line. If I plot my first ordered pair, 1, 1, so I go over to 1 on my x-axis, go up to 1 on my y-axis. There's my first point. Then I go over to 2 and up to 3. There's my second point. And I go over to 3, up to 5. There's my third point. When I connect all my points, that makes a straight line. So then we could find the slope from our graph using what we've already learned about rise and run. This is a positive line. It's going up, just like slope do, going up the mountain, puff, puff, positive. So that means we're going to do a rise and then a run. We have to go up 2 units. So that's positive 2. And then we have to go over 1 unit. That's a positive 1. So the slope of this line, the change in our y values over the change in our x values, the change in our y values was 2 over the change in our x values, which is 1. So 2 over 1 is our slope. That also simplifies to 2. Now we could find the slope without having to graph our ordered pairs. We can just find it from the table, and that's what we're going to be going over today. I'm going to show you guys how to do that using our notes. So there's actually 2 ways we can do this. How to find the slope of a line from a table. There are 2 ways to find the slope of a line from a table. So this first way, I like to call this a shortcut. So it's got a little bit less work involved as long as you understand the steps. And then this second way here is just pulling our ordered pairs out and then using our formula that we learned how to find the slope between 2 points. So I'm going to show you guys how to do both, and then you can pick the way that you like best. So first we're going to do what we've already learned, how to find the slope between 2 points. So if I take my first ordered pair here and I write it, and I take my second ordered pair here and I write it. And it's very important that when you pull these out, you write them in order because your table is already ordered. Now we're going to label our points like we already learned how to do. And we are going to plug those values into the formula for slope. So remember, it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So now I'm going to plug those values in. y2 is 10 minus y1 is 5 over x2 is 2 minus x1, which is 1. 5 minus 5 is 5. 2 minus 1 is 1, which simplifies to 5. So the slope of this line is 5. That's one way of doing it, pulling our ordered pairs out and then using the slope formula here. Now, let me go over a little bit of a shortcut here. First, we need to identify the change in our y values. So if we look at our y values here, what change is happening from our first y value to our second y value? We are adding 5. And you can check here too, from the first y value to the second y value, we are adding 5, and here we're adding 5. So we found the change in our y values. Our y values are changing by 5. Now let's find the change in our x values. That's step 2. Change in our x values, we're adding 1. 1 plus 1 gives us our next x value, 2. Again, we have another change of 1 and another change of 1. So we found the change in our y values, we found the change in our x values. Now we're just going to set it up as the change in y over the change in x. The change in my y values, y over the change in x. So the change in my y values was 5 over the change in my x values, which is 1. 5 over 1 simplifies to 5. 2 different ways to get the same answer to find the slope. All right, let's try another one here. Again, we can still use this method. We can pull out our first 2 ordered pairs and label them and use our formula. This one's just written horizontally. So my first ordered pair, the x value is 0 and the y value is 5. Second ordered pair, the x value is 3 and the y value is 7. Now we have our 2 ordered pairs. We're going to label those x1, y1, x2, y2, and plug those into our formula. y2 minus y1. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 7 minus 5 is 2. 3 minus 0 is 3. So the slope of this line is 2 over 3. Now let's try it using the shortcut. Change in y values. We need to find our change in our y values first. So from this first y value to our second y value, what change happened to go from 5 to 7? Well, we added 2, so that's a positive 2. It changed by 2. Change in our x values. From 3 to 0, or from 0 to 3, we went up by 3. Now we just write that as the change in y over the change in x. Change in y over the change in x. Change in y was 2 over the change in x, which is 3. Okay? I'm going to just go over it with the shortcut now. First, we need to find the change in our y values. So to go from 0 to -4, we're at 0 and then we go to -4. What will we need to do to 0? Well, we would need to take 4 away. The change is -4. And if you're not sure, you could check another one to make sure you did it right. So from this point to this point, they always need to be next to each other. To go from -4 to -8, what happened? We subtracted 4. Now we can check our x values, the change in our x values. We're at -4 and we are going to -2. What change happened to go from -4 to -2? Well, this time we added 2. Let me check and make sure I did that right. -4 plus 2 is -2. So I know I did it right. We could also check this next one right here. -2 to 0. What change happened there? -2 plus 2 gives you 0. So our change is +2. Now if we write our change in y over the change in x, change in y was -4, change in x was +2. Simplify this, 2 goes into -4, -2 times over 1. And this simplifies to -2. Our slope is negative. So that means our line is going down. Okay, let's try another one here. I'm still using the shortcut, just finding the change in y and the change in x and writing it. change in y values. Now we could pick any two ordered pairs to find the change in the change. So if I wanted to find the change of these values right here, I can. I just need to make sure I do the same when I'm finding the change in my x values. Change in y values from 8 to 0. From 8 to 0. I'm at 8 and then I'm going to 0. What happened? Well, we subtracted 8. And again, I can check that. 8 minus 8 is 0. So I know I did it right. Now for my x values, I'm at -2 and then I'm going to 0. -2 plus 2 gives me 0. -2 plus 2 gives me 0. So that's the change that happened there. If you want to check it again with two other ordered pairs, you can. From 0 to -8, we are still subtracting 8. From 0 to 2, we are still adding 2. So we know our change in x, we know our change in y. Slope is always the change in y over the change in x. My change in my y values was -8. Change in the x values was 2. Simplify that. -4 over 1, which is -4. So m equals -4. That is the slope of this line. Again, we could plot these points and connect them and find the slope that way. Okay, let's do another one here. Still using the shortcut. If you want, you can definitely go back and just pull out your two ordered pairs and plug them into the formula. Just make sure you pull out the first ordered pair and then the second ordered pair. You would label this x1, y1, label this x2, y2. I'm going to use the shortcut, find the change in my y values. From 6 to 11, the change is 5. We're adding 5. I can check that. 6 plus 5 is 11. Change in x values, we are adding 10 to that. Change in y over the change in x. Change in y always goes on top. Change in y is 5. Change in x is 10. If we simplify this, that's 1/2. So m equals 1/2. Now, what if I didn't pick those first 2 points? What if I picked these 2 points to find the change in? Well, let's see. 16 to 26. What change happened there to get to 26? Well, we added 10 to that. What change happened here to get from 20 to 40? Well, we added 20. 20 plus 20 gives you 40, your next x value. These are different than these changes over here, but we will still get the same answer. This just means we're going to need to simplify. If I pull these out and I write my change in y over my change in x, change in y is 10, change in the x values is 20. That simplifies to 1/2 still. So just because it's different, that just means we have to simplify and we're still going to get the same slope. Just means that these points are further away. Okay, the last two here. If you look at this first table here, what do you notice about the table? About either your x values or your y values? If you notice, all the x values are the same. The x values did not change at all. So when I'm calculating the change in x values from 3 to 3, that's 0. No change happened. For my y values, from 1 to 4, from 1 to 4, I added 3 to that. That's a positive 3. Now when we write this, change in y over the change in x, change in my y values is 3. The change in my x values was 0. Now we went over previously on our notes what happens when we have a 0 in our denominator. And you can double check that on your calculator to see what happens when we have a 0 in our denominator. So if I type this in to try and simplify it, 3 divided by 0, we get an error. And anytime that happens, that means that the slope of this line is undefined. When it's undefined, that means it is a vertical line. Your x values are not changing. They're staying in the same place. Your y values are changing. It's a vertical line. All right, this graph over here, just take a quick, or this table over here, take a quick peek at it and see if you notice anything. So if you notice, our y values are all the same. What do you think our slope is going to be when the y values are all the same? Let's figure it out. Change in y values. From -5 to -5, 0 change happened. Stayed the same. From -6 to -3. What happens to -6 for it to change to -3? Well, we added 3. And if you don't like having to deal with the negative numbers, if you notice you have positive numbers down here, find the change between these points. From 0 to 3, we added 3. From -5 to -5, 0 change happened. You can pick any two as long as they're next to each other. Change in y over the change in x. Change in y is 0. Change in my x values, we're adding 3. It's a positive 3. And this time we have a 0 in our numerator. And when you have a 0 in your numerator, and we try to simplify this, 0 divided by 3, we get 0. Our slope is 0. And we learned previously that when we have a slope of 0, that is a horizontal line. Horizontal line. This over here is a vertical line. All right, guys, I hope this helps you with finding the slope from a table. Remember, you have 2 options. You can do the shortcut, which is what I've been showing you, or you could also pull out 2 ordered pairs, label them, and plug them into the slope formula.